Who wants to be a middle manager? If you ask young people, what's your dream job? Then they would say pilot or doctor, musician, influencer, uh, CEO, entrepreneur, but none of them would say, I would like to become a middle manager. So, in this sense, it doesn't seem to be very attractive. On the other hand, we need, there are lots of middle managers, and I firmly believe we need them. And here's some thoughts which I had. The old role was clear, so we needed in the big companies we needed middle managers in order to transport news information from the top to the bottom and from the bottom to the top. That was actually their main task, duty. Now we have digital tools, platforms. They cover this role entirely. That led to an assumption middle management is redundant. We can get rid of them. And that had also an impact on their reputation. So if I listen to the McKinseys of the world and others talking about restructuring and lean management, making companies faster and more efficient, then always they talk about middle managers, the lazy brake pedal pushers, naysayers, blockers, those who we don't need. And the question is, how can we get rid of them as fast as possible? And this is the dilemma. So now middle managers are still here. They're with us. They're working. And what we want is we want them to increase productivity under cost pressure, uh, but also provide orientation. That what Patrick said. They have still a close and strong link to the shop floor workers, to the blue collars and the ones with direct customer contact. And what they need is orientation. So the middle managers are the next available level for them, and that's why they ask, give me orientation. But also we need them as drivers for digitization and transformation. But we don't give them, in exchange, we don't give them recognition or support. We just tolerate that they're still alive, that they're not on in retirement already. Yeah, I think they matter more than ever today, and this is not discussed widely at the moment. And I would like to encourage this kind of discussion, starting here today with this seminar. We need anchors of stability. We need also bridges, people who understand both strategy and execution, because we have many people in execution. We have too many maybe in strategy, and we need a bridge to explain what the strategists mean and what they want, and back to the strategists what the workforce can do, is able to do, is willing, is interested. We have culture carriers, role models for collaboration. So this is another very important pillar. And what we also see, there's an ongoing and increasing collective exhaustion in many organizations. So the whole nation, particularly the companies in many countries, is exhausted, is tired, and we need people who can work with this and put fresh energy. Patrick said oxygen, and put fresh energy into this group. This is why I think they matter. So what we need is, or what we have already, and we need to spread, is more the new definition of leadership. So it's no return to command and control. This is gone. Although we see more and more companies at the moment, in particularly here in Europe, we see more and more companies who tend to say, okay, we talked about organization development, we talked about people development, we talked about employer branding and these interesting things, but now is not the time. So let's push this aside for a while and go back to just roll up our sleeves and work. So we want to work harder. And so the middle managers are tasked to put more pressure on people and get more performance out of the workforce. But putting this a little bit aside, I think this is a temporary phenomenon. In a while, we will see this. I don't know whether it will be weeks or months, and then we'll see this is not the way which brings our economy forward. So we need middle managers not from the front because pure instruction is not enough. We need them not from above, so top-down managers, we have enough of them because nobody wants microcontrol. And what we need is them standing in the back of their people, give them support, enable them, empowering, coaching, and excellence and humility, key values. This is what I think. And what could be a turnaround strategy? And this is what I'd like to discuss and have your opinions and additions, feedback on this is we could work on and find ways to have more true value acknowledgement of the middle managers. We could discuss promotion criteria, prioritize social and leadership skills over technical expertise, and always the best expert is the best leader. That is a standard way of promoting, but we need to change this. This is very, very tough, very difficult, I know. Also, empowerment, give real responsibility for people and change, not just for processes efficiency. And also middle managers with new narratives and storytelling. So we need to teach them how to do this, give success stories of middle managers to others, but also success stories to the people, so from above. So back to the old role of information distribution, but here with loaded with different narratives. Yeah, so from paralyzing layer to change agents would be kind of an idea for a title. New roles, influencers. For me, middle managers need to be influencers in shaping culture, narratives, the way forward for the company. We need them as supporters, enabling teams, removing barriers, change agents, driving transformation, and I would also say sense givers, because people are looking for sense. Does it make sense what I do? Does it harmonize? Is it in line with my personal values? And so these sense-giving ideas could also be put to the middle managers. Yeah, finally, we could launch a middle manager appreciation initiative, maybe from the future workforce or somewhere else. We need to create better leadership development programs or modern, up-to-speed leadership development programs focusing on emotional intelligence, empathy, psychological safety, radical candor, leading through uncertainty, these kind of things. Also, introducing peer-to-peer support in mentoring programs like that. And also redesign promotion pathways. This is, for me, the most important thing, because this will help to guide people through this cultural change if they know the old habits won't be promoted any longer in the human-centered leadership. So conclusion, middle management is not the problem. It could be a solution or part of the solution to navigating uncertainty. And turnaround start with appreciation, empowerment, and redefinition. And maybe we can play a role in this. So thank you for listening.
Well, let's get it rolling, Matthias. Thank you very much. Good to hear it, really. And I take it in that sense of good provocations. And there were a couple of things you said, which I wanted to comment on and reflect back, because I think this is potentially the future. One, the role as a bridge or as connectors there's a lot of scope to reevaluate that and the skills required to be internal brokers, facilitators, fixers. And I think that a lot of management development programs, certainly where we're commissioned to deliver those, they don't come requesting that, but we provide that, and it is absolutely an appetite for that. So this rethinking of the management development content to support those sorts of skills internal negotiation, influence. I think
Mm.
that coming under the bridge, I really appreciated that. And secondly, and you didn't talk very much more about this, but the culture carrier or culture shaper, and I think this is massively overlooked and is possibly where a lot of organizations are struggling, certainly those that I'm working with internationally. Investment in this group has been minimal. It's almost always targeted at the senior leaders or at onboarding orientation for new starters. And this group is missed, and they carry the old determinedly sometimes to the detriment of organizational culture. And an investment there uh, could be could really bring dividends, I think. So I wanted to affirm both that role as bridge builders, connectors, and as culture shapers. And I think with one of our clients at the Conscious Project, with UNICEF, we've seen a huge positive benefit of coaching this cohort.
I'm struck by the convergence of a couple of other things too, which is this notion that traditionally young people, for example, coming into an organization would learn the ropes and they would study, the critical skills needed for executing on the job that they have. And as we see, with AI seeping into every corner of organizational life, there is, I think, and this will be known to all of us, a concern that that critical period of knowledge acquisition
Mhm.
may actually cease to exist because those functions, if you like, or that thinking piece is actually now being done by AI. So the question then becomes, how will we then, you know, um, preserve skills acquisition in some way? And it seems to me that the middle manager's role, rather than just being dressed up as, same old, would actually has the opportunity to become uh, incredibly critical for organizational success. So the three things that I sort of put down here that I think building on what Ben was just saying,
Uh,
that notion of the middle manager as a coach leader, somebody who can, uh, as you say, lead from the back through the coaching uh, dimension, I think is very critical.
mhm.
I love the fact that you mentioned about storytelling
Mhm.
and the ability to, I guess, help people to be able to tell
Yeah.
stories. And then back to some of the good old stuff of, let's say, John Cotter and his work in change and the importance of change agency. I think he called it a volunteer army of people to be able to sort of effect change. Which brings me to that final one, I suppose, which is really, we may be talking about a mindset change here and possibly maybe a renaming of this class of manager, perhaps. Maybe they're the bridge managers,
Mhm.
just to borrow on yours and Ben's characterization of them as connecting, strategy to execution.
I like the idea of renaming middle managers, middle implying that it is somewhere between the top and the bottom,
Mhm.
which implies there's some kind of hierarchy. And as we move to more networked organizations, to self-managed teams, to areas where management becomes more distributed, middle management is almost a contradiction. But there is a need to communicate and spread the culture of the organization. We talked about how do people, new managers, learn in an organization. They learn from the more experienced people. That has traditionally been hierarchical. Now maybe it's more a planned development program for managers to understand the culture that they're in and know how to act it out, behave to the values of the organization, and pass it on to their staff.
See, sometimes when we can't see clearly and things are uncertain or confusing and complicated, especially when they're ambiguous, right? Is we look at each other and we're like, how do we make sense of this? And I think, purpose, meaning, and sense are the three layers. And purpose is way too high.
Hmm.
People think the why is important, but it's the meaningfulness, the meaning of things is extremely valuable for a human being to engage. Is the meaning of this for me?
Mm-hmm.
But deeper than meaning is sense, and you did mention that this potential.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the word I would use is
Makers.
the sense makers. Yeah, the sense makers, right? Because in both directions, I like how Ben and Michael and the others talked about the bridge, right? I think they're ideally situated to be close enough to the top to see the sense of what's up there, but close enough at the bottom to see the sense of things underneath, and to be that facilitator, not in like a meeting facilitator sense, a sense facilitator. And I love how the appreciation and the empowerment play with each other. And so they need a sense, first and foremost, for themselves connected to meaning, connected to purpose, identity and purpose. And I feel like that could be the layer, the magical layer for all transformations of organizations is
Mm-hmm.
this middle layer as it moves and the sense of things emerge, which then leads to higher levels of engagement and energy, and it's connected to appreciation and empowerment. So I think that component could become the execution layer more even than the top or the bottom. It could become the transformation layer, the making of sense and mobilizing the masses in the directions needed for success. So I feel that's all there. Thank you.
Actually, the two things that I was really reflecting on is appreciation. What does appreciation look like? What does it feel like? What's the emotional, embodied experience of a middle manager feeling appreciated? Now, through a lot of the work I do in a coaching space, I notice this really fine line between appreciation, often in the form of recognition, and abandonment. And empowerment, also perhaps magnifying the experience of abandonment. And I think often the people that I work with are in this transitional phase into a senior leadership role from a middle management position. And either they've been promoted far more classically, or they have played a very specific role that's made them shine, and there's a business need that requires a more strategic leadership role and contribution. And the lived experience that I hear over and over and over again is that sort of, yeah, jumping on the raft, finding a way to move away from a sense of abandonment and not or falling off the raft, and moving towards, inner strength and resourcefulness to feel fully empowered. So I think there's a couple of things that came up for me as I was hearing you speak, Matthias. And one is appreciation isn't just about recognition. It's got to be far more about who this person is, what are their needs, what is the quality of the contribution wanted by the organization and needed by the organization, and then how does the organization play a role in enabling that individual or those teams even to thrive.
Mm-hmm.
So moving away simply from the classical recognition and towards, seeing the whole. The second thing I think that came up for me is, and actually it's more prompted by what you were saying, Michael, about the AI. I'm resisting using the word threat, but that the criticality of how that population, that vast population, actually continues to create and generate stories. And I think what's becoming more and more apparent for me as I engage with AI is the dialogue, the conversation, and the human connection. If it's not there, AI will take over and we will become more and more individualistic and insular. So my sense, particularly for this audience, for this population, is how do we create spaces for real, genuine connection? How do we get people to do, what I didn't do, I was going to, and then I noticed I haven't done it. What Patrick did with Matthias in that moment, made a very conscious gesture to mention the plane behind his head. So how do we create these moments of real human connection and storytelling so this audience can really propagate the humanity within the organization?
I think we're still in that stage of not recognizing that we need to satisfy more than just the shareholder. Rather not, and the work that needs to go on to get more and more people recognizing that and contributing to that is a key part of where middle managers' role should evolve to. I mean, in the past, we know it's just been the person who's the best technically that got it because we just needed their output. But now, as organizations flatten and the demands are increasing, if we don't define their role in the widest sense of what they are doing and give the people then, as everyone else has said, the skills and clarity on what they're there for, then they'll demonstrate that success.
But what it boils down to is the question, what makes it attractive to be a middle manager? So why would I choose to be a middle manager? So in the past, those, let's say, younger than 40 would say travelers on their way to the top to become a CEO. And all those beyond 45, 50 are the ones who failed to become a CEO. So they're losers. So a gang of losers. And would you like to be one of those losers? So we need to change something to make it more attractive to become a middle manager and stay in this area of middle managers. And got a lot of feedback now from you, which I have to try to put into this presentation. I'm happy to share this afterwards to get a little bit more grips to it, bring it more to the ground. What can we really do? It's easily said. We need to give them more appreciation. Okay, cool. But how? What do we do exactly? And how will a manager, middle manager in the future be different from the one today? And what struck me also very interesting was the idea of we need to rename them. Michael, since you had the idea, how about a few hints, a few proposals of, but not only to you, but to all of us, who has an idea? The bridge makers, sense makers, a lot of interesting things, but a new expression, a new title, and something which they would write on their business cards. So I am a sense maker. I'm an influencer. I'm this and this. And I think if we find this as kind of an anchor, so the North Star of the future middle manager, then we can put some things together and get out of it. We could put this into leadership training programs. We could put this into management development circles of the various exchange rounds in HR communities and all these kind of things. So thank you very much.